Lizelle up here? You're pinned right now, Mark. Pin up Lizelle. All right, Lizelle, let's go. Get yourself unmuted.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're glad to see you all again here tonight. Thank you, and we appreciate you for always showing up on our live webinars. So we wanted to say hello as well, and thank you to all our customers and followers that are streaming with us live, both on our Facebook and YouTube channel. Thank you for always tuning in. Again, I'm Lizelle. I'm the Customer Service and Sales Manager here with Highland Park Lapidary. I am in charge of the overall sales operation. And I wanted to share with you guys that we just got 2 containers in our warehouse last week, and we're shipping bunch of orders. We have another 3 containers currently in transit, waiting to arrive in the port in the next 4 weeks approximately. And our China team is loading another container to ship out this week. So we are doing serious production, and John, as well as the rest of the China team, has tripled their effort, to ship the machines and parts here in the US. So we wanted to thank our customers for their patience and understanding on the delays. And although John is super busy, we are very grateful again to have him join us today, along with Sherman, to answer your questions about lapidary equipment. I'll take it that tonight will be yet another interactive and fire session. So for our Q&A, you can raise your hand if you have any questions by going into our reaction icon on the bottom of your Zoom and click raise hand, or you can also post your question in the chat. I know everybody is all ears and ready, so let's kick off today's webinar with our intro video.
All right, that's a cool intro. Thank you very much, San, for cranking that out. So I bet you we're going to have some cool questions here, John. I just want to touch on one thing that Lizelle had said is, how long did it used to take for us to build 1 container of equipment, John? Like, remember when I was in China the first time after 2010 Quartzsite show, and we sold, 63 saws in a week? It was insane. So John's like, you got to come help build this shit.
Well, our first year of production, we shipped 2 containers.
Yeah,
that was
the whole year.
2010, I think, or 2009. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting old. I can't remember that shit. But we're on a run rate right now about 1 container a week, and the main thing that we've done to be able to do that is we pull a lot of stuff in-house, and we've got the CNC machines, we've got all the welding in-house, where we can control those processes and control the speed of how things are produced.
Well, you can really see why you think about a company like Caterpillar or other companies vertically integrated, because depending on a bunch of suppliers, That's our biggest challenge over the years. Like I think 90% of my time when I'm over there at the factory is dealing with supplier fuck ups and trying to get things back on track and delivered it. So we're going to start.
As we get started, how many people have questions, technical questions they want to ask today?
Put yes in the chat.
Yes in the chat. You can find the chat in the bottom toolbar of Zoom.
Yep, Scott's got some questions. Jan, Cornelia, Craig. And now I want to say a little bit, the questions can be on any equipment. It does not have to be Highland Park related. We really don't, doesn't matter what the equipment is. We want to get in and get your machines running. So we want to use this time to.
Well, it can also be about what equipment to use for doing what too.
Oh, sure. Yep. Yep. I want to have this to be kind of interactive with the questions. And the other thing is you also may have process questions. And so if you've gotten certain things that you're trying to do, we may be able to help on some of those as well. A lot of you had said, hey, do a session. We're just answering technical questions. So we're kind of queued up with 3D models. We can drill into machines. We can look at particular things. So we can certainly help. And Cornelia, yeah, we could talk about that too in terms of, equipment. Really, I always ask the question when somebody's looking at equipment, it's first, what are you looking to do? And really understanding that, because that really is going to determine your choice of what machines to get and what makes sense. And sometimes it's better to incrementally build your studio rather than trying to get everything at one time. So I got a couple questions we're going to start off with here, John. So
let's just dive in.
Cornelia is killing it with questions. Thank you. So she says, how do I know when to change the oil in my 10-inch saw and how much do I need? You want to take that, John?
What kind of 10-inch saw is it? Just throw it up in the chat. If it's our HT10, what does that take, Sherm? The HT10?
It's going to take probably about 3 gallons, but really I don't pay attention to that as much as I do how much oil is covering the blade on the bottom.
Yep. So basically what you want to do when you're adding oil is you want to get up on that blade. For a 10-inch blade, I would be up on the blade about 3/8 to a half of an inch, where I'm covering, like if you're using a continuous rim blade, where I'm covering the continuous rim. Regarding the question of when you need to change your oil, well, I could answer it as a lazy rockhound guy, which is you run it and turns it until it turns into a solid gelatinous mass.
That's John's strategy. And then let me try to put an Everclean on it.
After you do one clean out after letting it get like that, you'll discover when it's still liquid but getting thick, where you can dump it out the drain without it sticking on everything, is way better. Because then your cleanup is way easier. If you wait till it turns into jello or pudding, then your cleanup is a nasty job.
Well, and you can't recover as much oil either. So I'm going to shoot a video. Somebody was just asking me about this today as well, maybe one of the team members, that if you don't have an Everclean, and say you got a smaller saw, like if you're HT10, you typically get a couple of 5-gallon buckets. The bottom 5-gallon bucket, you get a lid and you drill a bunch of holes in that lid. The second bucket that you stick on that lid, drill a bunch of holes in the bottom of it, and then you put a paper bag in the top bucket. And you're essentially making like a mega coffee filter, but using just a brown paper bag from like Whole Foods or something like that. And then, what I'll do is I'll let my oil settle. I'll drain off the good oil out of the saw. And on your high tone 10, I always recommend, although we don't have them in stock at the moment, get yourself a ball valve, because that's a way easier means of closing it. I'm going to just find a ball valve so everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, on the high tones, you'd have to throw an elbow on it and a ball valve. I think it's more useful on and saws that have drains on the bottom. And I saw some comments online about ball valves, that ball valves always leak, and that people end up putting a drip bucket underneath it. And in time, particularly if you're running gritty sludge through the ball valve, that can be kind of true. But I think the real advantage is that if you've ever taken the cap off the bottom of like a big saw, the minute you get that cap where it's coming off, the oil's shooting out sideways and you can't keep it in a bucket. If you have the ball valve, scoot the bucket underneath it, you open it, you dump a bunch, and then you pull the bucket out and throw another bucket and you dump it. That's easier. I'm actually going to have ball valves available for people.
That's a ball valve right there. This is for a 1 1/4 inch. I mean, that high tone 10 takes a 1 inch in MPT. So you want to get a nipple coming out, an elbow going down, and then put the ball valve in front of your counter. And we've had a lot of customers I've seen done that of some of the photos that they've sent in. But you know, on a bigger saw, super valuable to have a ball valve. Just to let you know, if you're cleaning out say a 36 is going to have probably around 15 gallons, 13, 14 gallons. No, wait. So I think about that.
We need to add all the oil quantities onto the descriptions on the website.
I have a table for it, but you're right. That should be there. A 24 is 13 gallons.
24 is 13?
Or roughly 13. A 20 is about 7. And
Zeke
18
is asking how
7.
much a 36 takes.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think you're probably going to be, we could look, Zeke, because I do have it somewhere.
Well, put it this way: if you run in a 36, you should be buying your oil by the barrel.
Buy it by barrel, absolutely.
Yeah, and Harbor Freight's got those hand pumps. Those are so much better for adding oil into a big saw like that.
Right. So anyway, you know, that is your question, Cornelia, is, you know, don't get it to be like molasses, because you're not going to be able to recover as much of that oil even when you filter it. I always recommend you have your extra oil so that as you clean that oil and let that kind of soak down and, you know, get the oil out of the sludge, have another oil that you can fill back in so you're not waiting, because you'll leave. If on the bucket strategy, you typically leave like the sludge in a bucket for how long, John, before you end up chucking it?
Well, you know, when I was running the sphere operation in California, I had like 20 buckets going at a time, and I would just let them sit for a long time because they would keep dribbling out water and, you know, oil over the time. And then, I mean, with that method, you never get as much as the centrifuge, but it's cheap for if you're on a budget or if you have small saws.
Right.
Is Cornelia on video? Do you have your video on, Cornelia? Because I think it'd be great to have the conversation, because you're asking.
Yeah, let's pull up Cornelia. Is she on video? Open up on video.
If you're on video, we'll just go up on video chat and talk about what equipment. Because
she's only on audio. She's not on video. It's
a good question.
It is a very good question. Well, she's got another one. I have 3 different blades for my 10-inch saw. Are they really that different? The green line.
What 3 blades do you have? Is what 3 blades? If they're designed for lapidary, then they will have different characteristics, being blade kerf, or the type. Like if you got a continuous ring blade, you can get a really nice finish with it.
It says there are blades. You know, for the HT10, we only have 2 blades. We have the green line and we have the thin line. We don't have a segmented blade for that. So the thin line is a continuous rim. It's going to give you're going to lose less material when you cut with it. So if you're cutting more expensive material and you want to have a less of a kerf, the kerf is the width of the blade, and is essentially, if you think about, if I'm cutting rock that's 150 a pound, I might want to use a thinner blade when I'm going through that because I lose less rock. The green line blade is going to be a little bit wider curve, but it's going to tend to be better as it relates to cutting things like petrified wood and the like, because it's going to be a bit more free cutting of a blade compared to the thin line blade. The thin line blade needs to be sharpened a bit more, especially if you're cutting hard material using that little bastard file technique video that we have. Somebody find the video to the sharpening and drop that into the chat, because that's a good reference for people. And for those of you watching this later on YouTube, all those videos, you can find them off of our website. You just hit the video link, and we've got probably over 500 videos right now up online. So anything to add on the blade question between thin line, green line?
No. Well, it's thin line, green line, and I think a lot of people don't really realize that we offer the segmented blade that's really a competitive blade to the MK segmented blade.
It's actually more free cutting. It cuts more similar to the old 303 when that manufacturing changed, when we moved it to first Korea and then now it's Indonesia. The blade performance on the 303 is not what it used to be. It used to be really pretty good cutting blade when it was made in the States. So Scott
Nguyen has a question, but he says he needs to show us.
He's right up on here on the video. Let's pull him up. Hey, man.
All right. Let's see it.
Hey, Sherm. Hey, John. Let me just switch you around here.
All right.
Okay. I've got an old HP saw here. And I saw your video, John, on the bushing. And you can see here, I don't see a bushing on this old thing.
I see it right there, right in front of that little lock collar. It's
that
thing
right there. That's your bushing.
Oh, okay. All right.
And if you grab a hold of that feed shaft and you grab it up and down, that's going to tell you whether that bushing's starting to get ovaled out, because they tend to wear out.
Yeah, it doesn't go up and down.
Yeah, no, that bushing looks good. I don't think you have any concern there.
Oh, wonderful. I appreciate that. That's very helpful.
Yep. Yeah, you got a bunch of stuff. Give us a pan of your shop there, dude.
Okay. Well, basically 24 inch and a 24 inch and a 16.
Yeah.
And then lots of rock.
Yep.
And then a couple of small sphere machines.
Yep.
And then a high speeds machine.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then over here is the spot where my core drill is supposed to go.
Yeah. John has got those core drills close. You had one little hitch on the shaft that you're tweaking with, right?
Yep. Working on drivetrain right now.
Right.
Okay.
So they're all assembled, but one of the things we really pay attention to is the drivetrain, because that sucker is really, you want it to run smoothly. So he's really particular on that. We had one time we had to push the supplier to redo that shaft, 4 times?
Yeah, it's a tricky part. I bought a big machine. It's a monster machine that is for doing our long shafts like that. But I got the machine in, and the China Customs wouldn't let me bring in the tank and the transformer and the conveyor for it. So I got this tank and transformer conveyor sitting in Hong Kong, and the machine sitting on my factory floor. So I've had it in here for a year and I haven't been able to use it. So I'm still having to deal with suppliers on that one shaft.
Okay. Get that shit shipped back to me. I'll get it refurbed and it'll go over new. It's just It's pain in the ass. The stuff we deal with is a big pain in the ass, but it could be worse. We could be
Have you had any problem with being shut down by COVID over there?
We only had this year. Well, it's been 2 years I've been here without leaving because I can't leave or I can't re-enter. And this year we got shut down here in Shenzhen for 1 week. And right now in Shanghai, everything's shut down, and they look like they're going to run on a month. So we are cranking product out like crazy right now. So if we get hit with another shutdown, I got lots of containers on the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, John.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Scott.
man.
Great shop, dude.
Thanks.
All right. And let me jump another question. I know Jan's got his hand up there. Let's see.
Kelly is asking about us making a rock lathe.
Oh, yeah.
We don't make a rock lathe. Like the only rock lathe that I have ever seen is that one that DP come out with, which a lot of what I've heard about it is that it wasn't really that successful. I know they discontinued it as a product. Really the question I would ask is this, is what is the thing that you're wanting to make? Because there may be different ways of making it. We're toying with another old machine that we found that one of our customers loaned to us that actually functions a little bit like a rock lathe, but it is a different concept and definitely a lower cost machine than the one that DP made years ago.
Mhm.
So if you want to throw more detail, Kelly, up in the chat about what you would be wanting to make, we can talk about how to make that.
Yeah, well, a lot of the things that we would have done with a lathe, we have used a shaping machine. So in our production environment in the Philippines, eggs, massage wands, hearts. What else does that machine make? I mean, body jewelry is great on it. Barrel beads, drum beads, pretty much any of that type of, unique one-off types of things you can do with a profiled wheel. So, and it works kind of like a key maker. You've got a cam that can profile the size of the piece. So if I'm doing a heart, I put a heart cam in, and we need to do a webinar on that one.
Well, we're going to do one exclusively on how to get the most out of and everything that you can do with a shaping machine, because a lot of people still aren't that familiar because it's not a technology that was really introduced in any significant way in past history to the US market, but it was very prevalent in both Germany and then in China, of course.
Right.
So Steve has a question here about drilling a large quantity of holes and that the ultrasonic drill is really more complicated. He wants to deal with. I am working on a product right now to offer an alternative to ultrasonic drilling. And I've got basically a nice little attachment that can go in a drill press for a water swivel. But we're in the process of making our bits right now. We're going to probably use our same diamond matrix that we use on our big core bits because it's really successful. But that's maybe later in the year, looking at the development cycle on that. So we will have something to offer on that.
I'm going to pick up some of these older questions here. So Cornelia, your question on the what equipment to get and in what order, that's a longer conversation. But typically when people get into lapidary, if you're making things like pendants or earrings or that, one of the first things you typically get is a slab saw. So you can get things into a slab shape, although some people start with a trim saw and they'll buy slabs. Because you'll need to get things slabs flat, then you'll use a trim saw to be able to trim it into the shape, and then you're into typically a cabbing machine for then now grinding and polishing and doing the shaping of the piece for whatever your particular application. If I'm doing like match pair earrings or pendants or other types of things. And then from there it kind of sprays out. If I'm a sphere guy, I might have a slab saw, but most effective in sphering would be a core drill, because a core drill is equivalent to about 8 saws running simultaneously. It's very, very fast for preforming. And so then of course you're going to be looking at, high speed machine and then low speed machines for polishing, like you saw Scott had. So he's a serious sphere cutter. It's, Ed Bolton I talked to last night, big cutter, Michael Herrick, all of them cut. So anyway, that's a bigger conversation. Happy to talk to you offline. One of the team, reach out to Cornelia and let's just get a call. I can get a call scheduled with her. I'll talk to her sometime next week. Diagnostics.
So Jan Wade's got a question about his high-speed sphere machine.
Let's go for it, Jan. Bring up Jan. I see him there. Hey, dude. Yes.
Okay. I started out using a book by Robert Ritchie and Covington's three-head machine. He helped me some. When I graduated to the high-speed sphere machine, it was kind of two learning curves. One, the spheres rotate a lot faster, so motion is tougher to detect, and I've never used bungee cords before. My basic question is this: after I've got it roughed out with the 80 grit wheel, I get the cups close to the sphere, and I use the bungees to tighten it up and achieve the proper rotation. That usually works until enough of the sphere has worn away that one cup becomes dominant. And my question is, what I've been doing is sometimes backing off the dominant cup or advancing the non-dominant cup to get the rotation back. Sometimes I readjust the bungees. It's a trial and error basis, which you don't dare leave or you bore a hole into the side of your sphere. Is that just the way it is with a bungee machine?
Well, let me, and I do have a video on this, because this is really one of the things that you see the most with the high-speed machine. Because when I designed the high-speed machine, I wanted the heads to be really controlled, so there's no angular side-to-side movement. It only allows it to rock forward and back. Now, when you look at how the three cups can come in and touch the sphere, if you look from the top, they may look like they're all touching equally. But like if I'm training somebody in my shop on it, and I can tell, like at this point in time, I can tell if I walk up and I look at their rotation, I can tell when they have one or two cups that are like not quite adjusted in right. So what I do is I turn off the machine and I tilt each head back a little bit. And what I should see is with the ball, that the bottom of the cup is touching the ball. So when you go to tilt the head back, you'll see it rolling up on the ball.
Right. Yeah. So
underneath,
because that's your pivot.
Almost always that when you go through all three, you'll find one cup, you tilt it back, and there might be an 1/8 inch gap at the bottom of that cup.
So that cup is
I bring that head
like
in.
that.
Yes, exactly. So I bring that head in so it's touching, and then the real key is very small adjustments. Most people over adjust, and then they'll have one cup that's floating, and that one cup that's floating will cause you rotational errors. Now, once you get that, and like I said, we do have a video on that in our sphere, high-speed sphere machine stuff, and you'll see me talk about that, and you can see visually what I'm doing in the video. That's number one.
For the team, can you guys just take an action to find that video for Jan?
Yeah. Then the other thing is, when you get into 1200, 4000, 8000, always, as that sphere gets closer and closer to final polish, it's going to fight you for rotation. So generally on those, and that's the good news, because it means you're really close to round and that you're really close to having that perfect finish. So when I'm running at 4000 and 8000, that somebody's got to be on that machine. You can't walk away from it. You're only on it for a few minutes anyway. If you leave it running for a long time on 4000 or 8000, you're just wasting cups, because if you haven't prepped the earlier stages well enough, when you get to 4000, if you run 4000 honestly for more than 3 or 4 minutes on most materials, then it says there's something wrong in your other prep, because most materials are going to come up really, really fast.
Let me just, for the new people here, what John's talking about is the grit of the cup. So in the sphere machine, we use cups that go from a coarse grit, like a 60-80 grit, all the way up through 8,000. And then we go to leather with cerium oxide if it's like a hard agates or jasper, or we might use canvas with 50,000 diamond paste if we're doing with chrysocolas or other types of things that are more tricky to get that pop on.
Yeah, I love your display, Jan. That's great.
That's a killer display.
When we built the house, I wanted shelves in the new office.
Yeah.
About half filled.
And I gotta say, Jan is a stand-up guy. I was at his previous house and I had a blowout with my trailer, bringing him a saw, and he insisted on replacing the tire on the trailer, even though it wasn't his fault. I thought that was just so stand-up.
Get personal service from a lapidary company that would bring you a saw on their trip back home from the Denver show.
Yeah,
it was the least I could do.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciated that. So, you know, and we've, you know, it's funny because Scott, I mean, we got Scott here too. Scott, did you have something to add to this? Because you're sphere cutting as well. Pull up Scott. Let's have him on this as well, because you guys should know each other, by the way. And then Jason Russell, we're talking to later tonight. He's a sphere cutter out of Salt Lake City. Anything to add, Scott, on like your.
Yeah, basically, you know, I understand the beginning, and in John's video where he's doing that rose quartz and he's getting that crisscross pattern when it's turning, which is great for, you know, the rough cuts for the 80 to the 220 to the 400R. And from then on, it's really hard to ever get it to do that pattern ever again, no matter how hard I've tried.
Yeah, as it gets closer and closer to perfect, it will fight you more and more.
Okay.
Which is,
and out of curiosity,
is the nature of it. It's still, any way around it, it's still better than the low speed machines because it gets you there way, way faster.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. Just curious, I have a heat problem with certain material, like with jaspers, especially. I can't do them for very long at the finer grits because you get some of these jaspers and all of a sudden they'll ping out a little chunk out of the rock if it gets too hot.
Right.
You ever thought about I don't know, I'm not an electrician or anything, but is there any way to have a variable speed put on those?
You know, I did look at that, and the challenge is that to get to variable speed, there's really one of two routes. You're either going to go with a DC motor, which the accuracy of the speed control is really marginal, or you go with a VFD, and because you're controlling 3 motors, really the only proper way would be to do 3 VFDs, and now it starts getting expensive.
Okay.
So, you know, I hadn't done that for those reasons, and mostly because, you know, like I got 8 of these machines in our factory that we run all the time, and they just produce, and at some point in time, it's just, you know, focus on producing and learn how to handle the different materials. Like, you know, if we're generating too much heat in a stone, what I tell my people is you got too much bungee pressure. So lighten up your bungee pressure and give it a little bit more water. And sometimes, you know, a certain material is fighting you. And that's usually an indication that on your 400P, you didn't run it out long enough, because the 400P, a lot of people don't realize it. Okay, the steps, I'll just talk through this since there's other people that may value it. Coarse, 220, and 400, those are metal bond cups. So they look like a little segmented core drill, but the segments are different. They're a custom segment that I developed for sphere cups. Then we go from 400 metal to 400 poly. And everybody always asks me, why did we do that? You already got a 400, or they think they don't need the 400 poly. Your 400 poly
place to the 800. I'm like,
your 400 poly is your longest step, because you got to take all those metal scratches out of that piece. And when you run that 400 poly long enough, then everything else is so easy. Like if
Well,
you
and let me just
really
give
run
it
the
kind of a
400 poly out good, then your 800, you might be 3 minutes on 800, 3 minutes on 1200. And if I'm doing like, I love doing a Wahi and Bruno Jasper spheres. And if I'm doing a Wahi and Bruno, I can come off at 1200 and a lot of times I'm like, it isn't going to get any better. I got my polish because that material is so hard and I'm not getting it hot because I'm not on it very long.
Well, then you jump to leather and cerium for your final hit with those most of the time.
If I'm coming off and I'm on 1200 now, I got a great polish because the way the resin works, like that polymer that I'm using, the way it works with the diamond, sometimes I come off and I don't even need to touch the ball after that.
Right.
Certain materials like Sugar Creek, I ain't gonna run the leather and cerium because it's got those elements of weird softness kind of in it that the leather and cerium will help me bring up. But like a really hard jasper, like Bruno, it's
What's the difference between using leather and canvas?
Well, you can use cerium on either leather or canvas, but generally, if I'm going to run canvas, I'm running diamond on it. So, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to give up one of my little secrets, and I've told a few people about it. But if you are making your diamond slurry, like say you want a 50,000 diamond, and you're dealing with Indian paint stone. And everybody goes, oh, you can't get you're going to get a matte finish. Well, I got some really great finish on some of my Indian paint stone or a Cherry Creek Jasper that I will take and I'll just buy, 30 or 50 or 100 carats of the 50,000 diamond. It looks like freaking flour, right? And people go, oh, well, they're going to mix it with oil. Well, I don't want oil on my ball. So I will mix it with milk.
Milk.
Okay. Milk is awesome for it. Now, the only thing I'd say is keep it refrigerated or it starts stinking. But the milk suspends that diamond perfectly. It's easy to clean up. You don't have oil. Like, I don't know why everybody got the idea of putting oil on it, because, if you're polishing a really soft,
chrysocolla. Yeah.
Then that oil is just going to soak in your stone and, change the color of it or cause you some kind of milk. It's perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Ooh, secret. Love that.
We
it does the body good,
help you guys. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing of these things is when we've got a certain secret, we're going to tell you, because, our mission is to really inspire and get people engaged in lapidary and to really grow the awareness of the hobby, grow the awareness of people, whether they're participating, buying, or whether they're making, to really make it available. And we know people who were brilliant in lapidary. One particular guy could tumble polish anything. He wouldn't tell anybody his secrets. It went with him to the graves. And to me, that's a shame because there's no build, the medical field grows because people share and people then build on top of the knowledge. You can't be in this scarcity mode of, oh my God, I'm not going to share my idea. Otherwise, nothing grows.
So,
perfect.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, dudes. I've got a bunch of questions. I'm just
so Zeke asked the question: how long does it take to make a 3-inch agate sphere with a core drill and a high-speed sphere machine?
That's a good question.
If you got a core drill and a high-speed sphere machine, you can come home from work at 6 o'clock, grab your sandwich, go out in the shop, and make a sphere in an hour.
Right. From pouring through
producing, if you queue up, 20, 30 pieces and you drill 20, 30, 3 inches at a time and then grind them all at a time, you're going to get better than that.
Right.
I just remember the old days where I could be on rough grind on an agate sphere, Brazilian agate or something. I could be on rough grind with silicon carbide grit, and it would take me 2 days on an old slow speed machine. And that's why the high speed machine exists. I couldn't stand waiting that long.
Well, and we actually figured out the economics was cheaper than buying all the grit. The cups is actually cheaper. Then you go through all the grit, and then if you factor in electricity, and then you factor in labor on top of that.
Yeah, I was going through 300 pounds of coarse grit each week in my old sphere shop when I was running carbide.
Yep. All right, I'm going to bang through some questions here. So what's the proper setup for a centrifuge oil pump? This is Diagnostics iPhone. Centrifuge oil pump. I don't know.
Do you have a picture? Do you have a picture of an Everclean installed on a machine, Sherm?
Yeah, but I don't know if he's talking about that centrifuge oil pump, or is this the pump on the Everclean? Can you just clarify that in the chat, Diagnostic?
Well, it sounds like the same thing to me because the centrifuge is the Everclean.
Or maybe it's the pump. So like the pump going on the side of the unit.
Oh, just pull up a picture of an Everclean installed on a saw.
Well,
you have anything with it?
Actually, Scott's got one in his shop. Scott, can you just turn on your video and we'll walk over? Because and then pull Scott up here. This will answer the question.
Yeah, just look at a machine.
Yeah, because you got a drop tube on there, and that's going to drop to the pump. So, so Diagnostic. you got to change that name, Diagnostic.
Sounds like some kind of hospital.
Diagnostic, All right, let's see. So there's an Everclean, and you look at the pump there. Yeah, go back to the pump. So you can see the Everclean's mounted there. That hose comes to the pump, and go around so you can see the drop tube.
So basically, there, Scott, when you see the pump's got the drop tube on it.
Go back to show them the drop tube, Scott, behind the pump. We can't quite see that. There you go. You see that?
Basically, the pump comes with a drop tube that allows it gives the pump a little bit more head. So the gravity of the oil dropping down that drop tube allows that pump to get more, more feed. And then basically we have a valve on the output of the pump that allows you to meter back the flow so you don't overflow your Everclean.
Right.
It's possible. Well, I'll tell you, when I started building these Evercleans, I was buying pumps from a company called Little Giant, Franklin Electric here in the States. And I'm buying their pumps, and literally we had like a 30% failure rate. The pumps just were dying like crazy, and then Franklin wouldn't warrant them for us at all. So we were just taking it in the shorts, and they had all kinds of problems with their pumps. And I got kind of ticked off, and I designed this pump that you see there. And basically that pump will just outpump anything. It pumps too much oil for some units, and you have to meter it back, because basically inside the Everclean there's a baffle underneath the drum, and if you put too much oil into the Everclean and run over the top of the baffle, then you'll start getting a little oil dripping out the bottom of your motor, which is not really desirable. It's not going to cause a huge problem. You just meter the oil back a bit, and it'll take a while for the oil to finish dripping out of the motor. But I've done it before in my shop when I set up stuff. It's not something you really.
I'm gonna pull you off that topic. I've got a ton of questions here, John. So we got to move. So how cold is too cold to slab? John asked this question. So this is a real question around your viscosity of the oil. And I know Jan Wade, who was up here, he's used magnetic engine block heaters to kind of keep the oil warmer in his saw. So you're paying attention to viscosity. You can be up in friggin', Alaska. And if you can get your oil so it's not so thick and it's syrupy, then you're fine to cut. So the engine block heater is a thing that I know Jan had used in where he lives in Oklahoma, because it gets cold and his garage wasn't heated. So he just had those magnetic go on the bottom of the tank, and that warms the thing up. And then he would actually have a good viscosity thing. So that would be what you want to pay attention to. Cornelia, yeah, 2 5-gallon buckets with a screen. I will be shooting a video on that. I got the buckets over in the warehouse. I just got to get my butt down and shoot that video, because I'm going to go through step by step on that. Zeke, how much oil for the 36? We think it's about 20 gallons. That's what we think it is. Proper flow rate for the oil to the tank diagnostics. I think John talked about that. You really, what you're paying attention to is not overflowing the Everclean itself, where it's coming out through your Everclean, because you're pumping too much oil through that. Temperature will make a difference. If you're in Arizona in the summer, even with our oil, you're going to get a lower viscosity on it than if you're in, say, Minnesota. It's not going to swing as much as some of the other oils because it's a highly refined oil. However, you will get some swing in the viscosity. So you want to pay attention to that flow. Steve, I want to drill a large quantity. I think we talked about that.
Yeah,
so
we
that
talked about it.
So that one's done with Steve. Zeke, how long does it take? We got that one done. David Lindsay, will the CB8 pads adequately wet a 3-inch expandable drums? The one that come on there, I would say no, because you'd want that felt to go over the entire face.
How wide is his pad?
3-inch.
3-inch.
I think we've moved to 2-inch. We've moved to 2-inch on what we ship is a 2-inch now on that CB8.
No, it's a 3-inch. I went from the 2-inch to the 3-inch because the 2-inch was too hard to line up on the wheel.
Okay. All right. So it may have been upgraded. So I'm not sure where that change happened. If you've got the smaller ones, I think I've got the larger pads in stock. You can just call the staff, and we can get you hooked up on some of the wider felt pads. Glenn I'm having issues with rotating feed dog and a 30-inch drive shaft on 2 18-inch older machines, Phantom or HP. Do you have a replacement? Hey, is Glenn on here? Is Glenn on video? Let's see if Glenn's up, that we can pull him up here. Glenn, there you are. All right.
That's a lower tone right there.
That's a lower tone there. That's a lower tone 18.
Okay. And I do have the feed screw for that.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. Yeah. And then I could not find those feed nuts you shipped over, John, at all. I've turned the place upside down. I know you're making them.
They're in the wrong bin.
Well, they might be in a unit that shipped out to customer when that happened.
I hope not.
Who knows? So
anyway, we have those.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a good saw. I mean, you get that new feed screw in there. Does that take the same bushing, John? The front and rear bushing? What bushing? Because I don't remember.
No, the bushing setup is different. I would have to see it. You definitely want to check your front and rear bushings on that, particularly the front bushing, because your gears are in the front. And what happens is, if the front bushing gets worn out, where the shaft can move like that, the gear's sitting in front, so the gear can move. And so your worm's sitting on top of the gear. If the shaft starts dropping down, then the teeth mesh on the worm starts going like this, and you prematurely wear out the worm or the gear. So that's great to check, because bushings are cheap and gears are expensive.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And if you need any help, just give us a call, Glenn. All right. Steve says, what is a good way of polishing both sides of the slab for making sun catchers and clocks?
R1M.
R1 won't be a great way, especially if you're making a lot of sun catchers
and clocks. You need some real estate for polishing, because you're putting 4 to 6 pieces on each one. Now it kind of depends on the size. If you have really small ones, you could do them on a bull wheel. But if you're doing any quantity of them,
Or wet belt sander. Wet belt sander could be great for that too. You got that leather polishing wheel.
Yep. But if you're doing any quantity, the R1M is the way to go because it takes all the labor out of it. You're just doing machine time.
Yep. Somebody put a link of the R1M up on the chat there. Bill says, does anyone make Datto, if I'm pronouncing that right, blades for lapidary? That got me. That's for you, John.
What's the question again?
Does anyone make a Datto blade? I don't know what a Datto blade is. I'm going to Google that here. What is a Datto blade? Somebody knows that. For table saws, they make them. Stacked Datto blade set. I'm just going to look
what are they
at
trying
it.
to do?
Yeah, it's the. I don't know if you'd want it. This is the definitely for woodworking. I get it.
What are they trying to do?
What are you trying to do, Bill? Is Bill on? Let's pull up Bill and let's ask him. Bill Corey. Yeah. Bill, turn on your video and we'll pull you up here and we'll answer your question. We're going to just have a conversation about it. There you go, Bill. How you doing, dude? I think you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you.
Your audio is not working.
Yeah, check your microphone there. One of this you're gonna go under that where the microphone is and just make sure you choose the right device that is your microphone. Underneath this, you can see it says mute and there's a little arrow pointing up in Zoom, and that allows you to choose maybe a different microphone.
Yeah, and you can test it. It will allow you to test it. So we'll come back to you, Bill.
We'll come back.
Get your microphone working.
Yeah, just put the thing up on the chat there. Then Craig had a question. I get a beautiful polish with cerium oxide and felt on agate slices on an 8-inch flat lap and have larger pieces of 4 to 5 inches that are too big for the 8-inch lap. The HP 18 flat laps go up to 3,000 grit diamond. Is there a way to use cerium oxide felt on the 18, or would the 3,000 grit produce a good polish? That's a great question.
We are working on producing some polishing laps for both the 18 and the 24. I don't have those yet, but that's definitely in the works.
They are available. I mean, you can buy both felt, magnetic back felt pads. We don't carry them, but they're available from some other suppliers that you could do that. We are working on doing that. And also you're going to do a cerium impregnated disc as well.
I'm looking at it, of course,
with like a magnetic mount. So yeah, your short answer is, Craig, definitely available. We can get you everything hooked up to the 3,000, and then we can just point you to where to buy you can buy both the felt or you can buy a impregnated cerium. I tend to like the felt better and being able to charge it as opposed to the cerium, because you're kind of dependent. I've not the vendor that has it. I've not used their cerium impregnated disc. So I actually can't tell you how well they work. They're really geared a lot for the glass hobby. So Kelly, even refrigerator milk goes bad. Could you freeze the slurry and thaw it before using it? This is if you're mixing up diamonds.
What I would say on that is, I mean, certainly you could freeze it, but I make small. If you're not doing a lot, then I'd make small batches. Batches. Because yes, it will eventually get manky.
Yep. So
there's a lot of milk jokes. I love the milk jokes.
Yeah, milk jokes. Dale's Food on YouTube. I was hoping to buy an old 18-inch Phantom saw this Saturday in Flagship. What's your thoughts? I don't know the year.
What is it?
He's looking at an old 18 Phantom this Saturday down in Flagstaff. And what's your thoughts on that? We love the Phantoms, by the way.
What kind of money is it? That's the first question I'd ask is what kind of money is it?
Yeah, how much money? Dale, put in the thing how much money it is, because we know approximately sell for, and it says John Pat McMahon is to join me. Pat McMahon, I know Pat.
I saw Steve Willing on here too. Hey, Steve.
Okay. Hey, how you doing, buddy? So, what is the appropriate amount of diamond powder per milk unit? So what's the ratio? It's a great question, JP.
You know, it's not super particular. I think we were probably putting in, I mean, we were doing pretty big batches, so I would take probably a half a teaspoon of diamond to about 25 milliliters. Maybe not that quite much diamond. I'm just looking for, I got good suspension. You don't want to overdo it. And I like, it's not super picky. The big thing is you get that combination on your canvas. If you're doing stuff like Cherry Creek or those kind of rhyolite, dolomite kind of materials, it's just amazing. It will bring those up, and you wouldn't think it could. And on those, heat helps you. Like, so if I'm doing Cherry Creek, the balls get pretty freaking warm when we come off, but we'll have a great polish on them, and everybody would be like, how do you get that polish?
And would you do the same thing if you're, say, you've got a slab or you got another shape and you're polishing on like a buffing wheel? Still,
well, certainly if you're doing cabs, you have a canvas wheel, you put canvas on a dome wheel on the side of like a wet belt sander or on a cabbing unit. Yeah, the canvas and that diamond will also work well there.
Yeah.
Flats. If you're doing flats, I'm gonna the polish that we have for flats is really the best. I wouldn't actually try and go to diamond doing flats.
Yeah. Okay, I got what Bill's asking. So he's looking to make varying slots, make slots and varying widths for boxes. So say if you're making like a beautiful stone jewelry box and you're wanting to do those stone bases or corners and glass stain. I love that question, Bill. So answers on that stuff, where he might find that, because that's a unique tool. It definitely makes sense to me. It's something we should sell.
I would love to see more pictures of exactly what he's constructing and what he's doing right now, because to me, when I listen to this, it sounds like not just a different tool, but a different machine, maybe. That doesn't necessarily have to be a big machine, but I know there's some machines that were developed for really helping doing intarsia and boxes and stuff like that, but there haven't been much on the market. So I think it's an opportunity for us to develop something for doing it.
You know, I mean, Bill, this would be something I'd be interested in talking to you about. You know, one of the team, if you can connect with Bill, because one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is how do you blend gemstone and lapidary with also woodworking? And there's somebody actually we're working to do a webinar with, where we'll bring up, he does these like kind of one-of-a-kind tables, and he's doing inlays in them. And that fusion of architectural wood and really beautiful design and stone together, to me, I'm very passionate about. And yes, you can stack multiple blades. Absolutely, you could do that. If you're saying, okay, I want to cut in, I could stack blades to do that, and to be able to have control the piece. Yes, stone and wood is a great idea. Yeah, because for us, there's so many people who work with woodworking, they got no idea about the stone world. And so if you can bring those together, I think you'll find a lot more interesting thing. I'm trying to find somebody who does beautiful, like say jewelry boxes. And then you know how you usually do that little, not a dovetail. What is that when we insert the little, because you did a lot of woodworking when you were building instruments, John, where you'll insert a little piece of wood of a different color in the corners. What the hell is that called? It's a beautiful little
the name evades me,
but imagine that's turquoise.
It's intarsia work.
Yeah, like an inlay. It's like an inlay type of thing. So yeah. So Dan, yeah. So Yeah, because I know Dan does some awesome sculptures, by the way. He showed us some sculptures on an earlier webinar. So let's definitely for team pick that up because we'll have conversations on that. Okay, we've got 50,000 grit ivory soap. Ivory soap looks like so aluminum oxide mixed with ivory soap. Yes, it looks like milk. It works. Cool. I don't know who said that. I've not done ivory soap.
Yeah, that will work too.
Seems like it worked fine. And aluminum oxide too. That it's a different type of material, but absolutely. Does anybody also then, because we're at the end of our time here, I want to ask one thing, like if you found this helpful, put in the chat, yes. So we keep wanting to tune to give you guys the maximum help that we can give you. Yeah. So yes. Okay. Yeah, because like we're really, we don't do that. I mean, for us, this is a thing that we're doing for you all to really be of help. And so, you know, oh, Eddie's on here. Hey, Eddie, Corey, good to see you. And Jason's here, which I'll talk to you later tonight. So, so we're looking for topics and looking for definitely new things to be talking about for people as well. Beth, I see is up here. Let's pull up Beth. Hey, Beth.
Hey, I just wanted to raise my hand and say, yeah, it's been very interesting.
Yeah.
Don't really have anything to contribute right now.
Yep. Well,
Sherman loves to talk to people. He's going to drag you up here, whether you got anything to say or not.
Sounds good to me.
That's my
Yeah.
brother.
I like to fix stuff. What can I say?
It's my job. Where are you based, Beth?
San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh,
Gem and Mineral Society of Castro Valley.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah. We bought plenty of parts from you guys.
I remember sending parts to you. I said something. We deal with a lot of clubs out there.
Mm-hmm. There aren't too many of them left because property is so expensive. The rent drives everybody out, basically.
Yeah. No, it's definitely an issue. Although I know there's Sacramento clubs pretty strong, at least seem to be pretty strong. I mean, I've talked to people. Have that changed?
Yeah, they've kind of revived in the last couple of years. So yeah.
Gotcha.
And also up in the Sierras, they have a pretty strong club.
Yep. And of course, Reno is strong too. We do stuff with
they're
the Reno
really
club.
they're really doing well.
That's a great club. They do good stuff. And I was talking to somebody who works with both clubs. He goes over the hill. Our aunt used to live in Auburn, and that's a good club. Well, great to meet you, Beth.
Me too. Sorry about raising the hand. I just meant to say.
Oh, no worries.
Yes.
You're giving the thumbs up, so I'll pull you up.
All right. Thanks.
Hey, so
JP,
I just want to ask. I'm going to ask everybody that's on today. So do you guys feel like we should do another equipment Q&A in the near future? Or do you guys have more questions that you want to see asked? Or is there specific parts of equipment Q&A you would like us to focus on? Put in the chat.
Yeah, Tarja. Yeah.
and Tarja would be great.
Yeah.
All right. Spheres. Yep, we can do spheres. We actually have a one that we're working on for doing core drilling as the first section of spheres. Oh, Don, Antioch Club. Yep. Yeah, and Tarja, I'd love to find somebody. Part of what we're looking for is somebody who's really, really good on Tarja. I do have somebody that works. Jack King and I've been speaking at the. He's involved with the. Oh my goodness, Georgia, the William Holland School of Lapidary. And there's a couple of different people there that teach courses. And so we're queuing up some things that we're going to be doing with that group. But we're also very interested in doing things with different lapidary societies around the country too, as a way of promoting you, but also, yeah, Ron Gall. Yes, you can talk to Ron. I know Ron, and John knows Ron too. He's out on the West Coast.
Hey,
yeah,
so listen, I I've got to check off. I've got a container that I've got to help the crew with that we're going to be loading here in a couple hours. So I got to get into the factory. But appreciate everybody joining us on this call, and look to see you next week.
All right. And then Dan, get Dan hooked up with me on a phone call, guys, as well, the team.
Yep.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. And same time next week. Oh, we do have a something for you guys, which I forgot. Team, you didn't actually put up the promotion. Did you? Everybody get off the call? There we go. So we got a rough rock. So anything for you guys that are here, we're going to do 10% off of any of the rough that we've got in stock. That is available on the website there. You can check in it. There's a whole bunch of different stuff there. So that's something special for you. Don't put this in the main video going up on YouTube, obviously, because that's only for here. I think this goes through the end of the weekend, and then we'll pull this thing down. So this is only for the folks that, on the webinar that about it. All right, guys, please, as usual, give us a good review. We ask that, if you're finding value for this, go up on YouTube, put up give us a review, 5-star review. Do you guys have that YouTube thing up there? The link for doing not the YouTube, but the Highland Park Google review. There's the YouTube channel. Certainly subscribe to that. The more subscribers, that gets more people visible, because that affects the algorithm. And then put up the Google review as well. Put that in the channel. Give us a review. If this is valuable for us, please give us a 5-star review. Share people what you're learning, because that also helps us as well. That pushes us up in the search rankings. It's all good stuff. So we really, HPL rocks. Thank you, JP. I appreciate it. So thank you guys very much. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week.